Ready to knock out the intro?
Let's crush it.
You're listening to The Tales We Tell, a podcast about spooky stories, unsolved mysteries, and local lore. I'm your host, Hannah Parch.
And I'm Katie.
Welcome back!
On a Thursday!
Yay!
First time in forever.
I know! I literally just told you I was going to wait until we were recording to tell you. So, if you guys don't know, we say we record on Thursdays. Very rarely does that happen.
We record on Thursdays. Sometimes.
We mostly record on Sundays, which is literally the last possible day, because Jarek has to edit on Monday, and then we have to put out the Patreon episode Monday night. So I very excitedly texted Katie yesterday, and I think I said, "You're not going to believe this, but..."
You did.
I have an episode ready. But the reason... it was an anger-fueled productivity spurt. So I went back to part-time at work. So yesterday was my first day off from the regular week. And I was part-time for like a couple, I guess like 4 or 5 months. Mm-hmm. And so I got used to having like my day off in the middle of the week. I would still wake up early, but I'd let myself sleep in a little bit. You know, like I wouldn't be scrambling to get out of bed at 6. So I'd sleep until like maybe 7:30, have my coffee, let the dogs out, like...
Still have a little bit of structure to your morning.
Yeah, and then I could work up until Jarek comes home, which is usually around 1. And I can still get some work done, but I tried to get the bulk done before I got home because it's just harder to do work when someone else is in the house. Mm-hmm. Well, I woke up Wednesday morning to my alarm, my regular alarm, which was at like 5:30. And who is next to me in bed? My husband, that is supposed to be at work at 3. Oh. And so I was like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm taking the day off." And he hadn't told me he was doing this, and he had already taken 2 days off. I was so inexplicably angry.
How dare you intrude on my day? This is my day.
Literally laid in bed, just like fuming. And I couldn't go back to sleep because I was just mad. And so I got up and I like angrily took a shower. And I angrily emptied the dishwasher. And I angrily put away a bunch of laundry. And then I was like, you know what? I can't get any work done when he's in the house. I'm just going to go to a coffee shop. So I drove all the way out to the county, which is where I work, which is a 20-minute drive because my favorite coffee shop is out there. And I set up shop in there. But I was like so dead set on being productive that I just like tore through this episode and got it done. So in a way it worked.
It's exciting. Yeah, we're back to, you know, one person in the office, or like everybody work from home, you know, except if you need to be in the office, it's just one person. Well, for me, it's always one person in the office. So like I'm kind of, you know, the exception to the rule, except there is one other person that technically uses my office, but she only comes in Tuesday mornings for a half day.
Okay. And
I was like, you know, I'll follow the rules this time. Like, hey, when you, like, are you planning on coming into the office on Tuesday? And she said, yep, I'll be there. I'm like, great, I will not be there.
Right.
So that we can, like, follow the rules and be good employees.
Yeah.
For once. No, I'm kidding. And she's like, all right, awesome. But also my husband was off on Tuesday. So it's like, okay, I have to work. I'm going to go upstairs.
Don't bother me.
Guess how long I made it upstairs before he came in and decided, like, thankfully we're doing some interviews. And so he definitely did stay away and out during those interviews. But
it's very hard to get work done with husbands around.
Yeah, because most of the time he's interrupting me, but also I wasn't feeling great Monday and Tuesday. Like, I came home early Monday and kind of took a sick day. And I wasn't feeling great Tuesday, but I was feeling better.
Yeah.
And the only time I'm, like, affectionate and nice is when I don't feel well. So
you sound like a cantankerous cat.
I know, I sound like I'm the worst. And even, like, if I'll, like, roll over and, like, hug Shelton, or, like, I go up and I, like, hug and love on him and snuggle and stuff, he's like, oh no, you're not feeling well?
Oh no.
Oh. The more affectionate I am, he's like, wow, you're really not feeling well. And then he'll, like, check for a fever.
I take it back. You're like Kelly, and with me only. Because the only time she's very snuggly with me is when she doesn't feel good.
Same with Olive and me. But, yeah. Oh, and also, for the record, you know how I joked that I was going to start saying code 12 whenever my husband was being ridiculous and difficult?
Yeah.
It's definitely a thing in our house now.
Is it really?
Oh, big time. I just fix him with this look, and I just go, code 12. And he thinks it's the funniest thing.
I love it. Does he know what code 12 is?
I explained it to him, yeah.
I mean, because, famously, he doesn't listen to the podcast. So he wouldn't know from context. Oh, my gosh. Well, one thing I didn't do during my productive streak was write any announcements. I'm sure there are some, but I don't
Save
know
it for Sunday.
Theoretically, we're recording again on Sunday if I get my second episode finished. Theoretically, I could have done that on Wednesday, but...
And if it doesn't snow...
Oh, fingers crossed. For snow. I want snow. I want it to snow.
I don't.
I want it to... I just want to...
No one out here can handle snow.
I know,
Everyone's an idiot when it rains. It's even worse when it snows.
My favorite thing in the world is staying inside on a cold day.
You can do that without snow.
Yeah, but I have more of a reason to do it. Do my cross-stitching and my crosswords and my Wordle that I'm going to get you hooked on. Just wait.
See, I might be a cantankerous cat, but you're also an old lady.
I am an old lady. So. I'll take it.
But me too. With my knitting and such.
Oh, that reminds me. I go to a little thrift shop out in the county sometimes, and it's where I get all of my cross-stitching stuff because it's like, 25 cents. And twice now I have seen knitting accessories that I've almost gotten for you, and I'm like, well, I feel weird about buying like craft stuff for other people because I'm like, I don't know if like they'll use it or
like if they already have it, if they need it.
Yeah. But I'm going to tell you the two things I almost bought. One of them was a wooden needle holder. It was like a tube that you store your needles in. And one of them was kind of tacky, but I thought it was cool. It was knitting needles that the tips light up. And it was advertised as like, knit anywhere, even in the dark.
So that actually would have come in handy. So I hate knitting with dark yarn, but I love dark yarn.
Yeah, of course.
So it's a real pain in the butt sometimes. And then also, on road trips, I can only knit until it starts to get dark. And then it's like, well, I gotta just wait for that flash of street light and like, go, bitch. Street light, go.
So. All right. Well, if they're still there next time I go, I might pick them up for you. Because. Okay. Well, today's episode has nothing to do with any of that.
Awesome. Off to a great start.
Yep. Okay. So I'm just gonna jump in and we'll just figure out where we're going. We're gonna start. I know where we're going. You'll figure it out. Okay. So we're starting in 1645. A woman named Isabella Tomasi. Oh, that was it. Sorry. There's a third name. Isabella Tomasi was born in Italy in 1645. At some point when she was a teenager, she immigrated to Sicily. And a short time after that, she joined the Benedictine convent to become a nun. So allegedly, Isabella had come to the convent with fears that she had been, quote, cursed with an impure heart. Don't know what that means.
It's called humanity.
Yeah.
Called natural urges and desires.
So the
hormones.
Yeah.
That's what they're called.
Poor girl. She probably like hit puberty and was like, oh no, I have to be a nun. Or she did that thing that I feel like every woman at some point has done some version of, where you're just so fed up with people of the opposite gender or sex or just everything. And you're like, I'm just going to close that off and become a nun or whatever your version of a stowed away celibate person is.
I went with hermit in the mountains versus nunnery.
Yeah. I had a friend in college. She's actually my little, we did like Big Littles because it was a women's college. So the whole thing was a sorority.
I had a big sister, little sister at my high school.
Well, she was my little, and she would always talk about how she wanted to become a nun. And fun fact, now she is married with her first child and also has a book deal.
So not a nun.
Not a nun, but she's doing really good. I'm very proud of her. So Isabella has this impure heart, I guess. And so she joins the convent and she's baptized and she's given a new name, as you do. Mm-hmm. And her name is Sister Maria Crocifissa della Concesione, which I might have messed up because I don't know Italian.
Sounded pretty good to me, actually.
But here's a fun fact. A lot of nuns choose the name Mary or Maria for obvious Catholic reasons.
Yes.
And Crocifissa della Concesione translates to Crucifix of the Conception. So she was Mary Crucifix of the Conception. It's a heavy name.
That's a lot.
Yeah. I'm just going to call her Sister Maria the rest of the time.
Works for me.
And just everyone know that I'm talking about this one specific Sister Maria and not the dozens.
Not the one that used to hit you across your knuckles with the ruler in school.
Not the, I'm sure, dozens of other Sister Marias that were at this specific convent.
Or the ones that made you kneel on rice.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
That was a thing.
Could it be cooked rice?
No. It was not cooked rice. We didn't do that at my school, or at least we hadn't done it. They hadn't done it for several years when I started. It was seriously maybe like 10 years before I started. They used to make the girls go and kneel on the asphalt, like the gravelly asphalt, and measure to make sure that their skirts touched the ground.
That's a weird form of physical punishment and also enforcing a dress code that's arbitrary. Like, you could just kneel on the carpet or something.
You could, but...
And God forbid you were one of those long-legged teenage girls.
Yeah, thankfully they had stopped doing that by the time I started.
So, Sister Maria quickly, assimilates into nun life very quickly. And she becomes very devoted to her faith. She makes friends really easily. And she seemed to enjoy the quiet, simple life of the convent. So everything is going as planned. But then at some point, her behavior begins to change. She developed a short temper, and she would be set off and lash out over small things, which, been there, was at that point when I was writing this. She would blurt out obscenities during Mass, and she began having episodes of convulsing and snarling. The convulsing I'm okay with. Mm-hmm. Snarling I'm a little... concerned over.
I mean, I have episodes of convulsing, but they call it restless leg syndrome.
Is it happening now?
No, but it will be soon.
I was gonna say your legs are twitching a little.
No, that's just I can't sit still.
That's okay. So sometimes she would show anger or disgust at religious imagery, and sometimes she would seem to be repelled by the religious imagery, which is not a good thing if you're living in a convent.
See, I'm here thinking like Tourette's or something.
That's what I thought too when it said she yelled obscenities during Mass.
Well, Tourette's is also more than just that. I've been enjoying some, every now and then, like some TikToks or like Instagram reels come up. We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
Just videos of people who have these very fascinating and often misunderstood disabilities, like Tourette's or multiple personality, kind of stuff like that. And they explain, and so like with Tourette's, it's a lot of times you do yell obscenities, but sometimes it's just random things that gets on a loop, like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Like it's not necessarily obscenities, and then there's the physical tics that happen a lot too,
which could be interpreted as convulsions. Especially in the 1640s. Or I guess it's the 1670s at this point.
And her aversion to religious iconography can just also be because she's in a convent. Literally everything around her.
She's like, if I see another cross,
is religious iconography. And it could be, yes, that maybe there is some sort of trigger to it. But it could also just be like, that's what's around.
Yep.
She's having an episode or a tic or whatever.
There's actually a theory that she had kind of entered into this life of devotion or whatever too quickly, and she was struggling with it, and therefore she was being too hard on herself when she couldn't stick with it.
Self-inflicting.
Yeah, which, I mean, hello. Or even if she just had like a mild run-of-the-mill mental illness, that we've all had days.
We've all had intrusive thoughts.
Yeah.
You're just washing dishes or driving and you just have this random thought and it's like, what the?
It's like, you'll
Why
never
would
be
my brain think of that? You're driving and it's like, swerve into oncoming traffic. No. You're walking across like a lovely walking bridge and then, town exploring, having a delightful time. And you look off the rail and your brain goes, jump.
Yep.
No.
I think, so I've looked into doing an episode on that phenomenon because it's called something fancy, but it's translated to the call of the void. And it's so weird because I think
the urge to jump or the intrusive thoughts of...
I think it's the urge... I don't know.
Something destructive?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where it's like, I could do this. I'm not going to, but I could. Like, it's like, I'm not suicidal, but I could just jump over this cliff real quick.
Yeah. We should do an episode on that.
We should. I'm going to add it to my list. Okay. One day during prayer, Sister Maria began screaming as if she was being stabbed, and then she fainted. Everyone was a little freaked out. But then it became a regular thing for her. I guess they'd be like, well, it's time for prayer. It's time for Sister Maria to have an episode again. And
at least she's kind enough to schedule her
episodes. I know. During prayer. And she was treated for panic attacks, but I don't know what that would look like in the 17th century. Take a hot bath, I guess. Or take a lukewarm bath. By the time we lug all this hot water into this tub, it's room temperature. Sitting here.
I don't know.
So she's treated for panic attacks, or they just assume, they're like, okay, she has panic attacks, I guess. Make accommodations. But that didn't seem to help.
Doesn't sound like panic attacks to me, though. It sounds like just true outbursts that she has little to no control over.
Yes. Well, eventually, Sister Maria begins to also think this is not just panic attacks, and she believes that her condition is more spiritual. She had at some point started having visions of the devil, and initially, the idea of being possessed hadn't crossed her mind. I tried to look up the difference between, like, how Catholics view this and how Protestants view it, but when I was growing up, Protestant, I think I had the belief that if you were a Christian and you had Jesus living in your heart, which is how it was always described, that because he was living inside of you, you could not be possessed by a demonic force. So if you were like saved and technically a Christian and like had Jesus with you, you couldn't be possessed by the devil.
But now as adults, we know better. We know it's that fancy tattoo that Sam and Dean have. That prevents
That's actually what
possession.
It is. Yeah. So I don't know if that was a common belief in Catholicism. She had not initially thought, oh, I'm being possessed by the devil. She just thought, the devil is appearing to me for some reason. And because she's Catholic, what she needed to do was confess to a priest.
Yeah, I mean, the devil appeared to Jesus in the desert.
Yep. And as we all know, he went to a priest and confessed. He did not do that. We're joking. So she goes to this higher priest, and this is less of a confession of saying, like, I have sinned. It's more of a, alleviate this spiritual distress that I have, and I'm going to tell you what it is. So I don't think she's confessing to be like, these are all the sins I've committed. I think she's confessing and using that term as a way of saying, I'm seeking spiritual counsel from this higher up.
Yeah.
So she goes to the priest, and she tells him that she has been possessed by Satan. And allegedly, at some point during this conversation, she begins feeling an intense sense of rage towards the priest and lashes out somehow.
He was probably mansplaining religion to her.
Probably. That sounds accurate. And after this episode, she had no memory or awareness of what had happened.
Plausible deniability.
You know. She was like, "Oh, wait, actually I forgot. I don't remember slapping that priest."
I said that?
No.
That does...
You guys know me. I'm Sister Maria.
Am I the villain? I don't think I'm the villain. Am I? Maybe I am the villain. Maybe I'm the problem.
I love that sound. I love it with dogs specifically. Oh my gosh. This episode of The Tales We Tell is brought to you by the Crafty Criminologist. Do you love cute and creepy stationery and stickers? What about ghoulish earrings and adorable ghosts? Then check out The Crafty Criminologist on Etsy and Instagram. She makes stickers, jewelry, study guides, and more. Just go to etsy.com and search @craftycriminologist, and be sure to use code TheTalesWeTell at checkout for 15% off your order. That's The Tales We Tell for 15% off. On August 11th of 1676, the nuns were gathering for evening choir.
1776?
1676.
1676.
Sorry. 100 years later.
Yeah, no, my brain is mush these days,
okay.
So, don't expect me to keep up
Mine
with
too.
things.
The nuns are gathering for choir. Sister Maria, who is now 32, does not show up for choir. And this is very strange because she loved choir. So the other nuns, knowing, oh, she has panic attacks, maybe we should go check on her.
She got issues.
They go looking for her, and they found her in her cell, distressed and lying on the floor, covered in ink.
Cool. Also, point of clarification,
Yes.
too. For those who are not in the know or familiar with Catholicism, in a convent, her cell is just her room.
Yes.
It's not like a prison cell
Yes.
or anything. I mean, it is bare and sparse. There is a bed, I think a desk and a dresser.
You probably get a crucifix for the wall.
Yep. If you're lucky, you might have a window. I don't know. It really does feel like a cell.
But it wasn't...
She wasn't in a dungeon or something.
No. Just her bedroom. So she's laying on the floor. She's covered in ink. She is clutching a crumpled up letter. And so the nuns take the letter.
How can I tell that she's covered in ink? She's covered in robes that are probably black.
I think her face was covered in ink. So the nuns take the letter, and what they find on it is a bunch of strange symbols and what look like codes. So I'm going to...
Oh my god, she's the Zodiac killer.
Okay, this is what they found.
Cool. It looks like... You know when someone's having a stroke
Uh-huh.
and they just start speaking gibberish?
Uh-huh.
This looks like the written version of a stroke.
Yeah, it's not really a language. It looks kind of like a combination of maybe some kind of ancient language and hieroglyphics.
It looks like Russian, Korean, and our alphabet. All mixed kind of together.
Yeah.
Because there's some pretty swirly, swoopy things.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a couple of symbols that look like they're straight up repeated a couple of times
Right.
as if it is part of an actual alphabet.
Right. Also, I just realized that I left a clue. I didn't do that on purpose.
I was wondering if that was for an episode.
No, I left out a cryptogram book. Mostly just because I found it and I enjoy doing cryptograms. But it's also related. So they find this letter, and Sister Maria, when she comes to, is like, I don't know what this says, but I know who wrote it. You want to guess who wrote it?
The devil?
The devil wrote it.
Yes! 5 points to me. And to any of you who
Ravenclaw.
guessed as well. Pat yourself on the back.
There you go. 5 points to Ravenclaw, Hufflepuff.
Ravenclaw.
Ravenclaw. That's what I thought, but sometimes I think Ravenclaw would have... Okay, so she's like, the devil wrote it. One account says that she says that the devil possessed her and wrote the letter, but then another account says that she claims that the devil just appeared in her room and dictated the letter to her. So either way...
Either way, it's a letter from the devil.
A letter from the devil. So the nuns believe her because they're nuns.
Because why not?
And why not? And even though
They don't have any evidence either way, so sure,
yeah,
they maybe they don't have proof that the devil was there, but there is a letter and it is funky.
it's pretty weird looking, and she is covered in ink, and she has been talking about the devil a lot.
Did they smell any sulfur?
Unknown. If they did, they didn't write that down.
Was there any hoof prints in the ink that might have spilled
Maybe
on
in
the
the
floor?
snow.
Those were just from the manacles attached to the balloon.
Well, maybe the manacles got dipped in the ink, and anyway.
For those of you not getting that reference, go back and listen to episode The Devil's Footprints. What is that, 18 or something
I
like
don't
that?
know. We've referenced that way too much.
Because
For
it's
it to-
too good.
It is, but we're referencing one of our earliest episodes that I almost hope people haven't listened to. Okay, so
You're folks.
So Sister Maria has this devil letter, and she allegedly begs the nuns to destroy it. She's like, just burn it. I don't want the creepy Satan letter in here. But
I don't want to be Satan's secretary.
But they keep it, and of course they put it on display, and they are hoping...
They haven't even gotten anyone there to authenticate it yet.
They're hoping...
What kind of crackerjack nunnery is this?
They're hoping that someone would be able to decipher it one day. And I like to think that every new person that visits the convent, they're like, look at this. Do you recognize it? Can you read it? Do you know this language?
This is part of the entrance exam.
Yeah.
So you want to be a nun? Cool. All right, let's go through like your first stage of your interview process. Went really well. Stage 2 is, can you decipher this letter?
But then wouldn't it disqualify them if they could if they were like, oh yeah, it says this, and they could be like, devil. You read the devil's language.
I mean, they put it on display, hoping someone could translate it.
Right.
Like they were hoping that, you know, the devil, you know,
maybe they were using it as like a
trap.
Yeah, it's like a trap. If you make everyone read it, and if some people can read it, then you know that those people are demonic. So don't let them in. So it's on display. Who can decipher it? Well, someone does decipher it, but it's 2017. It's a group of Italian computer scientists. What they did is I like to think that they were playing around on the dark web, and they found this software that is supposedly used by government intelligence agencies. And so they get this software and they put a bunch of different languages into it so it can recognize these. And these include ancient Greek,
ancient Sumerian,
Arabic, but for some reason I was about to say Aramaic or Arabic. My brain just couldn't read that word. Ancient Greek, Arabic, Latin, ancient Runic, and Kurmanji. Not to be
confused with Jumanji.
Not to be confused with Jumanji.
Did you see my face light up when you
did?
Jumanji?
Which would make sense, honestly, in this story.
Why not?
So, what the scientists discovered in their research is that while studying at the convent, Sister Maria had become very familiar with a bunch of ancient languages. And
I mean, there's no TV. Why not?
Yeah, what else are you going to do? She may have even been a skilled linguist by the time she was in her 30s. They had this theory that maybe this letter was not, in fact, written by the devil, but was not mishmash, a mishmash? Mishmash. A mishmash.
A mashup?
A mashup? I like mishmash better.
That's fine.
A mishmash
I'll allow it.
Of different ancient languages that Sister Maria knew. I am having a hard time saying words today.
Oh, sweetie. Oh, sweetie.
This is my first drink all night, too.
It's because it's a Thursday.
I know.
We're so confused.
Oh my gosh. My brain's like, you're supposed to give me an extra 3 days. I went to that coffee shop today at lunch to work some more. And I'm not constantly, but I get Aaron, the barista, to make, custom drinks or whatever. And he made me a drink the other day, and I was like, can you make that? But can you put an extra shot of espresso in it? Which I already asked for an extra shot. So I had a 4-shot latte at lunch.
They call that the red eye.
He wrote a little caution symbol on it, which was cute and funny, but also I feel like it was his way of being like, I'm not liable if you...
Yeah, like,
if you have
no, don't sue us.
If you have a heart attack after this. Okay, so they have this theory, that Sister Maria made up a language from languages she already knew. So they put all those languages into the software and run the letter through it, and they were able to identify characters in the letter that were similar to characters in different ancient alphabets. And using that, they were able to translate 70% of the letter.
Cool.
15 lines in total. I will go ahead and say I looked really hard for the full translation. Couldn't find it anywhere.
Dang it.
I know. Yeah, I was just going to read it. I was actually just going to start the podcast by reading this incoherent letter. So there's not a full translation of the text that I could find, but the scientists did say that it didn't make a lot of sense. It was very rambling.
I'm shocked.
They say it describes the Holy Trinity as, quote, dead weights. It says that God is an invention of man. And then here are some quotes. Quote, God thinks he can free mortals. Quote, this system works for no one. And finally, quote, perhaps now Styx is certain. Styx being the river Styx. Styx.
So death.
Yeah. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. It's just vaguely like anti-God, anti-Christianity. It would be really funny if part of it was like digs at like a specific nun there that she didn't like. Just like, and also Sister Trudy is a butthole.
Sister Teresa is a traitor.
So based on what they were able to translate, based on Sister Maria's knowledge of ancient languages, the fact that the letter was not in fact a magic, mystical, unknown language, but made up of different known languages, and based on accounts of her behavior at the time, modern scientists believe that she may have been suffering from a mental disorder such as schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. In both of those, demonic imagery is fairly common. Bipolar disorder, intrusive thoughts, and erratic behavior can be common, and hallucinations can be symptoms of schizophrenia. And we talked a little last week about, like, when you have a mental illness, not regardless of what it is, but, like, a lot of times you're not perceiving reality the way that it is. Mm-hmm. So, and if you're surrounded by religious iconography and you're growing up Catholic and you're living Catholic and everyone you know is a nun, your explanation for that might be the devil is possessing me.
Well, also, I mean, we mentioned that she might have gotten into it, at too young of an age, too.
Right.
Because growing up, I don't remember if it was in my church or in school, it might have been in school religion classes, they're like, there's like this natural progression of like, when you're young, mm-hmm. You go to church, you go to Sunday school, you learn all your Bible stories, and you just believe them as fact.
Right.
But then as you get older into your adolescence and your young adulthood and everything is when you start questioning everything. And it's like, did this really happen? Like, did this Bible story actually happen? Right. Or is this more of like a metaphor for things? Is this more of like,
sometimes
whatever it is.
Sometimes you go on that journey when you're in your 30s also.
Exactly. And so like there's that period of questioning of like, is God even real? Like mm-hmm. when in the letter when she says God is an invention of man, I'm like,
sounds like therapy to me. Sounds like a little deconstruction.
And it's when you come through all of that questioning phase is, no matter how long it takes, mm-hmm. years or decades or whatever, by then you've got your own, more like fully formed beliefs in your.
It's like
that's
when
what you go with, and it sounds like, especially since she was still like just into this from a young age, like this was all pressed on her as this is absolute truth and fact, and she never really got that opportunity to question.
Yeah, she didn't get her Rumspringa.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Yeah, it does kind of sound like she's kind of questioning or deconstructing, or questioning even in a setting where questioning is not allowed. Mm-hmm. Like you don't get to ask these questions of, well, who came up with the idea of God? Did we invent him?
Yeah. Maybe
why
that's
are
why
there three of them? That seems
maybe that's
too many.
Why she was getting angry, but also irritated or aggravated. So I was gonna say angritated.
Angritated, it's a mishmash. It's fine.
with the priest in confession, like she was looking for guidance and she was asking all these questions and he was just giving her, the regular answers and like not really engaging in a discussion or not taking her seriously or whatever.
It's like when, I think I saw a TikTok about this, it's like when someone tells you, like, well, give all your worries to God. And you're like, okay, how do I do that? And they're like, well, you just give your worries to him. Okay, but how? How do I do that? How do I fold in the cheese? I don't...
Just fold it in.
I don't know how to do that.
Just fold in the cheese, David. Well, then you do it.
So obviously at the time, the letter was considered by the nuns to be a product of Sister Maria's self-proclaimed struggle with Satan. And according to Abbess Maria Serafisa, who I assume is the head of the convent.
What's her title?
Abbess.
Abbess?
It's like the head of the abbot?
I was thinking abbotess, but...
I looked up the word abbess because I was like, is that her name or is that a title?
It sounds like a title, but like a shortening of a title,
Yeah.
like Mrs.
Yeah. I don't know. The other Maria. The higher Maria. According to her, it was thought that the devil had tried to force Sister Maria to sign the letter, but she had heroically refused to, like, sign her name to the devil's letter. And
sounds like she was trying to write this letter with this hodgepodge of languages and stuff, and was maybe a little frantic about it, and was like just kind of pacing and maybe getting ink everywhere.
Yeah. You know, maybe she just knocked over the ink pot.
I mean, like, also, if you're using like a quill and ink,
maybe the pressure got a little...
You're gonna get it places. I feel like it's messy.
Maybe it's like when you take an ink pen on a plane and it explodes. Yeah. In a small container, not like, you know. Okay, so after this incident, Sister Maria was blessed, I guess, by other nuns, and she was given extra care, and it's not really known what became of her in later life, but presumably she didn't have any other noteworthy run-ins with the devil.
No more Satan letters?
No more Satan letters that we know of. But...
because she got better at hiding them. She was able to finish them before choir practice, so they didn't come looking for her.
And then burn them. So this was not actually the first demonic possession controversy in a convent. I'm going to tell you another short story.
But for now, Katie, tell us about our socials.
So, as always, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at the Tales We Tell podcast. That's where we put all of our pictures and some other fun pictures and goodies and stuff. If you want to see these pictures and you don't do the social media thing, you can always find them on our website, thetaleswetellpodcast.com. As always, if you want to support us, you can do that by going to Redbubble and searching The Tales We Tell and getting yourself some sweet, sweet swag, or you can become a patron on patreon.com, search The Tales We Tell. We've got bonus episodes, original content, all sorts of fun goodies and stickers, and as always, our undying love and appreciation.
Always our undying love and appreciation. 40 years earlier, in 1632, 17 Ursuline nuns in Loudun, France.
That's my people.
Yeah! They began reporting visions of the recently deceased. And this wouldn't, I guess, normally be that much of an issue. I don't know why it was, but they were... At the time, they were quarantined within their convent because a little thing called the plague was happening.
Oh, yeah, that guy.
Yeah. And soon they began displaying erratic behavior such as shouting, cursing, and barking. And...
It's quarantine madness.
You know, we've all been there.
Yeah.
And
yes, we have. Woof, woof.
They began claiming... I also like to think that maybe they just, like, had a secret dog in the convent that they, like, weren't supposed to have. And so when someone would... They'd be like, what's that barking? And then they would all just, like, bark to cover... They're like, oh, we just... That's just... Don't know. That's just Sheila. That's what she does. Definitely not a dog here. So eventually they claimed that a demon named Asmodee had been sent to torment and possibly seduce them. Which is a problem if you're a nun. Or if you're someone who cares about what the nuns are doing.
I was also thinking with, like, the barking noises. My brain went down a dirty path and I wasn't going to say anything until you brought up the seducing. Well, but I'm thinking, you know, back in the day, women had hysteria, and we all know how doctors treated hysteria.
I mean, sometimes you just gotta self-medicate for that. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, I always bark during that activity.
During your treatment.
My parents listen to this.
That's why I said, I was like, I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it. And then you're like,
for the record,
to possess or even seduce them. I'm like,
for the record,
I gotta say it.
For the record, I don't bark. I just want to put that out there.
I'm just saying that it can be some noises that can sometimes...
Yeah.
Like, is that like a dog yapping?
Also, maybe they were barking to cover up. They had like a buddy system. They're like...
Yeah, maybe that's it.
If it gets too loud in there, just someone bark to cover up the sounds.
Well, also, if that's not... Like, if you're walking by a convent and you hear those noises and you're like, well, this is a convent. Obviously, I'm not gonna, like... Obviously, that's not what's happening in there.
They're like, obviously, there's
so
no...
Brain, think of some other possible things that could make those noises.
They're like, there's no men in there. There's no way.
Dog. Yeah.
No way those noises could be happening.
Maybe there's a dog in there.
Yeah. A dog. So the nuns are questioned about... They're like, okay... They're like, this demon. Where did he come from? Who sent him?
Who let him in? Who's been playing with the Ouija board?
So they give a couple answers. Once they just say a priest, which, I don't know. Then they say Peter, like the Peter, like Saint Peter.
Ain't he supposed to be at the gate? If it's the plague, people are dying left and right.
You know.
So, like, he's probably got a line. He doesn't have time to just pop on down and
he's like,
let demons in.
Take my... Yeah. And why is he messing with demons? He's supposed... Anyways.
He busy. Don't bring him into this.
So they probably said that and they're like, oh, okay, never mind. It wasn't Peter. It was Zabulon, who is one of the founders of one of the tribes of Israel. So one of Jacob's sons? I don't know. I had to look it up. My Old Testament knowledge is...
Abraham.
No, Jacob. Jacob and Rebecca? Rachel? They had Benjamin and Joseph. Remember Joseph with the multicolored coat? And Benjamin was the baby. And he had 11 brothers. And they all became tribes of Israel.
The main tribe I remember is Levi.
Well, there was one called Zabulite. I bet there's a Zabulite. Look that up while the ambulance comes.
There's Abraham. Abraham had
Isaac
and Ishmael.
Uh-huh.
Isaac had Jacob and Esau. Esau is the Arab nations, and then there's Jacob with his 12 tribes. But I remember Father Abraham had many sons. Many sons had Father Abraham. I am one of them, and so are you, so let's just get back on with the show.
I mean, technically, we're Gentiles. So we're not sons of daughters.
I ain't gentle.
Okay, so they said it was Zabulon. But then they were like, all right, ladies, we gotta get like a reason. They don't believe any of these.
People are walking down the street and they think this place is a fucking pound because all the dogs barking. Like, we need to get our PR straight.
Yeah, so they're like, all right, let's all meet and decide. And so they come up with Father Urban Grandeur, who is a local parish priest, whom none of them had actually met before. But he had kind of a reputation from what I could gather. So they're like, he's actually a magician. He has sent a demon to torment us and sometimes seduce us. And it's him. It's this guy.
I call sexism. He's allowed to be a fucking wizard.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, make demons disappear.
Uh-huh.
But a woman mixes together some herbs to help cure a cold, and she's a witch and needs to burn. I think not.
Well, Father Grandeur doesn't really get a great deal out of this. So just hold tight to that real quick.
Well, you said he's a priest and basically a magician. So
well, they say he's a magician. So in response, Father Grandeur files a petition. He's like, my reputation is under attack. And the nuns were sequestered. And while they were sequestered, their symptoms seemed to stop. Which means that the nuns that they were sequestered with were not down for,
Woof, woof, woof.
Yep. So they call an investigation. Also, it should be noted, Father Grandeur, like, I said he has a reputation. Like, other people don't like him. He's kind of outspoken. This may or may not have just been... He might have just been a scapegoat.
Yeah.
Or he might have been a magician. Who knows?
A patsy.
So they have an investigation, and during this, witnesses said that Grandeur would just show up at the convent during all hours, but no one knew how he got there and how he was leaving.
And what was he doing? How long is he there for?
I like that they were like, well, we didn't see him show up. Therefore, ergo, flu powder, witchcraft. And he was also, accused of, quote, acts of indecency. And as I said before, he didn't have the best reputation. He already had kind of a beef with a prominent cardinal because Grandier had publicly criticized his policies. And as with most witch hunts, or magician hunts.
Wizard hunts.
There was...
Oh my gosh, that's my kid's name. Wizard Hunt.
Wizard. Oh my gosh. You said it here. Now it's law. You have to do it. So, unclear if there was any actual evidence. Probably not. But they eventually...
Is there ever?
No. Not any real evidence. But they did eventually find Father Grandier guilty of, quote, the crime of magic malefic? Okay.
I'd have to say that word.
I'm not going to show it to you because I might just be saying it wrong.
Oh, sweetie.
And causing demonical possession of several Ursuline nuns. And he was sentenced to burn at the stake. And also at some point he was subjected to torture using the boot, which reference our medieval-ish torture episode. It's basically any device that encloses your feet and then crushes them. He was promised that he'd be able to make a last statement before his execution, and then as a mercy, he would be hanged before he was burned. But at his execution, as he began making his last statement, some monks started throwing holy water at his face so no one could hear what he was saying. And then an exorcist who was present, who was enraged by the taunting crowds that had gathered, lit the funeral pyre before the executioner could put the noose around Father Grandier's neck, causing him to fall into the flames and burn alive.
God, that's the worst.
Yeah, it's not great. So he burned alive, and not surprisingly, the possessions did not stop after his execution, and in fact, continued for 3 additional years.
Don't you know that by burning, you actually release the spirit of the demon out there to go possess another?
Yeah. There was actually, there's a story that I didn't tell during last week's episode of a shadow person who an investigator found in a house, like confronted, ran away from, whatever. And then they told the owner of the house, and the owner immediately burned the house down. And they were like, oh, you're not supposed to do that. You made it work. You're like, oh, you just let it go.
Oh, I fucked up.
Oh, it's like when I suggested burning the Ouija board. I was like, that's how you get rid of them, right?
I'm pretty sure I also said no to that, too.
And Haley was like, I'm pretty sure you pour water on it and bury it. Oh, man. Okay, so I have one more fun bonus that includes a picture that I feel like you're going to love.
I feel like I might.
In 1896, this is all in the strain of the devil approaching nuns and writing letters. In 1896, a book was published called The Devil in Britain and America by John Ashton, and it claimed to contain, quote, the only known specimen of the devil's handwriting. This sample had originally come from a 16th century Latin book called Introduction to the Languages of Chaldean, Syrian, and Armenian, and the 10 other languages. There were only 13 languages in the world at that point, I assume. In that book, Italian conjurer Ludovico Spoletano had allegedly conjured Satan to interview him. He just asked him a bunch of questions. And Satan, as the story goes, Satan answered by levitating a pen and writing out his answers in some weird language. So instead of responding to them...
Well, at least you know that they're honest.
Instead of, possessing someone, he was just I'm just going to write my answers down, but in a language you can't understand. And code breakers have yet to decipher this one, but I'm going to show you.
Wow.
It's letters that are just variations of little pitchforks.
Yep.
I think it's adorable.
It is cute. It looks kind of like Aztec or Mayan or something like that. So something kind of South Central American and ancient in that it's just like lots of lines, not many curves.
Yeah, except for
angles.
except for that fancy,
Except for the curvy pitchfork.
flourishing. It looks like a pitchfork with like a swooshy tail. Mm-hmm. I just thought it was really cute because I feel like some ancient person was like, if the devil were to have a handwriting, if the devil were to have an alphabet, I bet it would be all little devil-y things.
Oh shit, the devil's dyslexic.
Is he? I was like, oh wait, you broke the code. I'll post a picture of this. I really think it's cute, and it really to me just looks like a bunch of little pitchforks just being cute.
Some are sideways, some are upside down.
Yeah,
Some are half pitchforks.
yeah, and some of them are real cool curved pitchforks, and some of them
Swoopy pitchforks.
some of them look like this one looks like it's a scythe, a scythe.
He's had it right the first
A
time.
scythe.
Yep.
Damn it. I'd set myself up for that one. Anyways, that's that's all I have for the devil's. I might call it the devil's handwriting. I have it labeled the devil's letter.
The devil's handwriting is
Devil's
on the wall.
The devil's writing on the wall. There we go. And also on paper with ink.
Yep.
So yeah, that was that second story took a fun little twist and turn.
I apologize.
I like that theory. It makes a lot of sense.
I take responsibility for it.
I mean, you were basically an Ursuline nun for a time.
I mean, I went to the school for a long time.
And now, look at you. Look at the condition.
I am in a condition for sure.
We're gesturing at Katie's pregnant belly.
I have to now do the guy with a large beer gut thing where I sit with my legs kind of, I have to do a little bit of man spreading.
You did the pregnant
when I
lady
lean
sit
forward.
when you did the... You kind of lowered yourself into
Bad
the seat.
guys. Bad.
Oh, you are a very cute pregnant person. I will still say that.
Thank
You and Bianca are both just...
I don't feel cute.
I'm glad I'm not pregnant at the same time as you, because I'm not planning on being that cute. So.
And now I'm ready for a nap.
That is allowed because we did our job. We recorded on a Thursday. Hey, it's before 9 o'clock. We did good.
I'm getting a taco.
I had leftover Mexican for dinner. And Jarek had
All of the Mexican. He
some
had
kind-
Mexico.
He went to like a very original hole-in-the-wall taco place here that's very good.
Oh, yeah.
But serves like 12-pound burritos. And
It sounds like he ate 2 of them.
he has a condition.
He has a different kind of baby than I do.
Different kind of food baby. And I'm just going to drink more wine.
Awesome.
And cuddle with the dogs. So we will see you guys next week. Bye. Although he started out by saying, I made a mistake. He said, I made a mistake. And my first thought, I was going to say, did you eat the chip again? Because that's what he sounded like.
That
Oh my
level
gosh.
of pain and discomfort.
I was like, oh no. Bad timing. And he immediately was like, and I was like, what?
I want Taco Loco. I'm probably going to get Taco Bell for dinner tonight.
You know what this man asked me to do? Because he's like, oh, no, I just need to, like... I was like, well, make yourself throw up. Like, if you ate too much, and it's, like, physically painful. And he said, stay on the phone with me while I try. And then he couldn't do it. And then he said, you do it. And I said...
I'm not sticking my fingers down your
throat. I
throat.
love you very much, but I will not do that.
Like, the closest I'll get is I'll bring home some Epicac for you, but...
I guess I could have volunteered to do that.